Are the rumors about Venice, Florida true?
In this video, we're going to talk about 5 big things that we hear from a lot of people about Venice that maybe aren't necessarily accurate or don't give the whole story, and break them down for you.
If you're looking to move to the area, make sure to call, text, or email me. My information will be in the description box below. I hear from people every day and I love it.
So the first rumor, and this is one that we've heard, is that Venice is all old people, or it's only for old people, and yada, yada, yada. Go ahead and riff on this for a little bit. I'll let you go first on this.
Yeah, so I mean, Venice is known as a retiree town, and it is known as a spot where a lot of snowbirds come during winter. So yes, there is a lot of an older population, but we also have a lot of newer families, younger families moving to town. So I think that's going to change here in the next couple of years. So yes, we do have a mainly older population, but we do have a lot of younger people like us.
I'm like really young. I'm only like 41, right? 41? So yeah, and a couple of things I want to add to that. First of all, yes, there's a lot of more youth coming to the area, and we've seen younger people even since before we moved here. But when we first discovered Venice, we kind of heard it was like people came down here and retired here or snowbirded here. And so at first when we came, we were like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. You know, it's probably not going to be our vibe. And we freaking loved all the retirees being here, because the people are like, since they're retired, they're relaxed. They don't got really anywhere to be. They're looking for something to do. They want to talk to people, and they're just so friendly. You don't have to worry about as much ruckus in the city and the city being trashed. It gets taken care of. People have that kind of courtesy that you learn through experience, and we honestly, I think we loved it for that aspect.
Yes, and I think with that too, it helps the city to feel safer, just because you don't have like, you know, the rowdy crowd.
Yeah, you don't expect a lot of retired criminals.
Yes, yes. It helps with the whole feel of the city, the friendliness of it, and also that people, you know, they have times, and they are not from here either, so like they kind of like welcome you in, and now, you know, they're more friendly, so now you feel comfortable talking to them, and they'll actually, like, if you don't talk to them, they'll start the conversation with you even if you're younger.
Yeah, and that's the other side of it too that I love, is that since there's a lot of retirees in Snowbird, like in a lot of Florida, but it's different because they're retired and they're so friendly, you get to know all these people and talk with, like, oh, where are you from? Especially in Venice. If you see someone in Venice, there's I'd say an 80% chance, maybe higher, that they did not grow up here. So the first thing I'll ask a lot of people, where are you from, Venice? Mm-hmm. And more often than not, they say no, and they'd be like, oh, where are you from? And then you can just have a nice little conversation about where they're from, find out a little bit about that. So I think it's fun.
Next rumor, and we hear this a lot, especially comments in all of our videos in different social media platforms, is that there is nothing to do.
And that there's no nightlife. Which I
kind
feel,
of true.
Yeah, to some degree. I think there is a lot to do. It just depends on the kind of person you are and what kind of things you like to do. What do you think is a great thing to do? Give us a little list.
The beach is always awesome.
Beaches.
Yes. Going downtown, just like walking around downtown, or going to the farmer's market. Every weekend there is a farmer's market. And if you don't find anything to do in Venice, we're not far away from like Sarasota or like Fort Myers, if you want like that bigger city life. So you can take a short drive and you'll have more stuff to do. But I don't think it's boring, depending on what kinds of things you like. The nightlife, yes, we don't really have that.
Well, and I think there kind of is. You just got to know where to find it. Like, we went out to the downtown a couple times at night, and there's a lot of live music. I mean, it's not going to be your club type thing, but it's like live musicians, which I think is more fun, personally. I mean, I can see other people wanting like the other way.
If you're like younger and you want to like go to a club, you're not going to find a club in Venice.
We do have Off the Wagon, which we've heard that's gonna be changing going, but that sometimes would have like not just live musicians, but supposedly more of that kind of club feel, and we've been there at night, and it absolutely is pretty jumping in there. I would also say, on top of like the things you mentioned, there's a lot of other things that you can do that you didn't even think of off the top of your head. You got the fishing pier and Sharky's. Awesome tropical vibes, go out for a bite to eat, you know, just whatever other things they got going on there. We went out there for New Year's Eve. That was amazing. The jetty, if you're into boating, if you're into golfing, there's a lot to do, and nature and trails. Like a lot of the stuff that there is to do is going to be a little bit more outdoors and active, and the beach and things like that. You know, you're not going to have a trampoline park, you know, when I'm talking about those sky zones or whatever.
Yeah.
Like for kids, I could see that criticism being a little more valid. It just depends. And like when my nieces and nephews come down, they love just going out to the beach, looking for shark's teeth. Let's look for the little lizards around the house because we're from Wisconsin. We don't have it. So I think for kids, it just depends on the kid too and the age, but I think there is stuff. The next rumor that's been going around more recently, things have changed a lot, is that it's overpriced. Take it away because you're the realtor.
We do hear this a lot, and I mean, the market is crazy right now throughout the United States. It's not just in Venice. So property values have increased everywhere, not just in Florida. So the housing market has changed a lot in the past year, and that's why people think that it is overpriced. Yes, property values did increase, but again, it did increase throughout the United States, not just in Venice.
Yeah, and in Venice specifically, I mean, there has been a lot of appreciation. And it's just because of some of the things we've talked about so far. Like, it's a desirable place to be, especially for retirees, but there are more families coming in. Being a small beach town that's growing and becoming desirable, yeah, you're getting more shops and restaurants and things and like that coming in. Like, what's the saying that if is it a Starbucks or a Whole Foods goes in, the property values are gonna... Like, we have a Starbucks. I don't think we're far from having a Whole Foods coming in, maybe the Welland Park area. That all has really made it a desirable area, and yeah, the property values have gone up. Honestly, I feel like before the values went up, Venice was kind of a steal.
Yeah, I mean, like, not a lot of people knew about it, so not a lot of people were buying properties down here. And now that it's like people have found out about Venice and the Venice area, everyone's moving down. And with the pandemic too, I feel like a lot more people are trying to move from like up north because it's so cold and you don't want to be like cooped up in your home 6 months throughout the year. Now it's like it's opened that mindset to people like, well, maybe I could just move down to Florida, find a nice beach town, which that's Venice. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think on top of that, Jazz decided to come visit us. Florida as a whole, but especially Southwest Florida, has seen a lot of more interest in the area. Supply's not keeping up with the demand. That's pretty much everywhere, but I think even more so here. I mean, the waiting list for new construction is ridiculous. So when you bring all that together, is it really overpriced? I don't think so. If there is that much demand and there's that little supply, that's just the way any market is going to work. I could see why people think it's overpriced because people think it might go back down, or that it's so much more than it was before.
Or that property values just went up. Within a year, they went up about 30% in Venice. So people look at that like in the past year, maybe a house that sold for $200,000, it's selling for closer to $300,000 right now. So people look at that and it's like, well, I'll just wait until the market cools down. But is the market going to cool down?
And if it
probably
does,
not.
Yeah, I think that 30% appreciation, maybe you see it go back down to 25 for a little while, and then it's gonna go back up. Yeah, but just with the waiting list on new construction and stuff, seeing that, I think it's going to be a long while before we see some sort of a correction or a crash. I don't think we'll even see.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a crash. Maybe a slowdown in the market, but not a crash.
Next big rumor is that Venice is extremely touristy. I don't think I would put it as touristy. It definitely has... elements.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit touristy. I mean, you do have a lot of people coming down, not only snowbirds or retirees, but people that just come here because they hear about Venice and they want to visit and see what Venice has to offer. So it is a little bit touristy, but I wouldn't compare it to like the bigger cities like Miami or Orlando.
Yeah, I think it's touristy more in the sense that people want to come see it and check it out. There are a couple kind of touristy things like Sharky's on the pier. Some people have said that is, you know, sort of a tourist trap restaurant, or some of the shops in the downtown are tourist. But some maybe, but I think as a whole, no. And it's not the same as, let's say, Orlando. If you go to the theme parks, you're a tourist, but not really, because we know a lot of people when we lived in Orlando that would just go there because that was their thing. But generally, I'd say 95% of people going to Orlando are there to be a tourist. Here, I think it's for some people like, okay, we'll check it out once. But I think a lot of people's like, Venice is what we do in the winter. We go to Venice, we'll stay there all winter, or we're going to go there for at least a week, and we're going to look forward to that. And I guess if you want to call that touristy to some degree is, but to some degree, it's just like your snowbird destination, if that makes sense. So overall, I'd say it's like 50% tourist?
Yeah, probably 50%, I would say. If that, maybe even less. Just because we don't have like big touristy spots. Like people just come here to go to the beach or the downtown. It's not like Orlando where like they have a bunch of different theme parks that people are going to those theme parks.
Yeah, we don't really have those like world famous attractions outside of maybe that we've been dubbed the shark tooth capital of the world because we have prehistoric shark teeth that you can find on the beaches pretty easily. But I don't think everyone's talking about coming to Venice just to come look at some shark's teeth that they could find. So
the next rumor that we kind of hear a lot.
Yeah, somewhat. I wouldn't say a lot.
Or not that we hear, but that I get asked from people when I'm talking on the phone with you guys, like, you want to know, is Venice dangerous? Like, how is the crime rate there?
Yeah, which if her laughing should tell you a lot that you like about all you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we mentioned before, there is a lot of retirees here. There is a lot of snowbirds. So it's not dangerous. I mean, not to say that things couldn't happen or wouldn't happen, but I don't believe it's dangerous or that the crime rate is that high.
That's not to say that there's no crime, but I don't think I can think of another city I've ever lived in or even visited for that matter that I've ever felt safer. That's like an actual city, not a small town, but like a city, you know, that's got, you know, a few McDonald's and stuff like that, like that size. I don't think I've ever been somewhere that I felt as safe as here. I'm not saying again that there's nothing. I'm sure there's, you know, stuff that happens, you know, there's going to be your occasional whatever. We don't have to get into the details, you know, kind of stuff that happens throughout the country. And I think one thing where people maybe get that idea is maybe one of two things. They're confusing it with Venice, California, maybe, which, you know, there's probably more crime there. Or two, I do think Florida as a whole has sort of a reputation for being higher crime. You know, you got to look out in the cities and things like that, but not really. And I think one thing that we should mention that kind of goes with this is when people ask, is there a lot of crime? They also want to know, is it good for kids or are the schools good? Really highly rated schools throughout Venice as well, so.
The only thing I would say though, not just with Venice, but Florida in general, is if you're not in a homeowners association community, you don't know what you're going to get like for neighbors. Maybe it's not to say that it would be dangerous, but maybe it's not like people are not following the rules as much. And some people like that, some people hate that. So it's like really up to you and up to what you want. But yeah, there is nothing really that would make you feel unsafe. But again, if you're not part of a homeowners association community or a planned community, you really don't know what you're getting for neighbors.
Yeah, and I could see maybe some of that, like if you are in an area where it's not as well kept, the yard or whatever, that perception can kind of be there, like, oh, I don't know if this, again, I don't think that there's no crime at all in Venice. We're not saying that, but I just don't think there's too many pockets where it's like, away from there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just me personally.
If you're looking to move to the area, make sure to call, text, or email me. My information will be in the description box below. I hear from people every day and I love it.
Phone number is 941-221-1897. Hit the like button. Drop a comment down below. Let us know about any other rumors you've heard about Venice or questions that you have. Doesn't have to be a rumor, I guess. And subscribe, turn on all notifications, and live breezy.